Alara Voss had learned, a long time ago, that the safest place to stand was in the shadows. In the castle of Blackthorn Vale, she moved like a quiet breeze through the kitchens and hallways, carrying linens, sweeping ash from fireplaces, never once looking any noble in the eye. She had been doing this for 10 years, ever since she was a small girl of 7, when the healer Marin had wrapped her in a servant's cloak and smuggled her out of a burning village in the dead of night. That village had been called Silverwood. Alara did not let herself think of it often. When she did, she remembered smoke, and screaming, and Marin's hand crushing dried herbs into a small cloth pouch, whispering, "This will hide you, child. As long as you wear it, no wolf will ever know what you are." What she was the last daughter of a pack that no longer existed. And on her collarbone, hidden beneath a high collar and a plain gray scarf, was a small white birthmark shaped like a crescent moon. It was nothing to look at. It could have been mistaken for a scar, or a trick of pale skin. But Alara knew what it meant, because Marin had told her before she died 3 winters ago. "That mark makes you a queen," the old woman had said, her voice thin as paper. "Not a queen of gold and crowns, but a queen of blood and fate, the kind that wolves are born to find. Hide it well, Alara. If the wrong wolf finds it, you may not live to see another dawn." So Alara hid it. Every morning she checked the pouch sewn into the lining of her dress, made sure the herbs were fresh and crushed fine, made sure her scent stayed muffled and ordinary, like any other human girl born too far from wolf blood to matter. She kept her head down when the king's guards passed. She kept her voice soft when spoken to. She made herself as forgettable as a shadow at noon. King Ronan Thorn was not a man anyone forgot easily, even though Alara tried very hard. He was tall, with dark hair that always looked as though the wind had just finished with it, and eyes the color of a storm before it breaks. He had taken the throne of Blackthorn Vale at the age of 20, after his parents died in a hunting accident that some in the castle still whispered was no accident at all. In the 10 years since, he had built a reputation as a fair but distant ruler. He listened to his counsel. He was just in his judgments, but he never smiled, not really, and he never let his wolf run free in front of another living soul. That last part was the strangest thing about him, and the servants talked about it in hushed voices when they thought no one important was listening. A king's wolf was supposed to be a source of pride, something shown off during festivals and hunts, a symbol of strength for the whole kingdom to admire. But King Ronan's wolf had not fully shifted in the company of others since the day he was crowned. He kept that part of himself locked away, like a room in the castle nobody was allowed to enter. Alara did not think about the king more than she had to. She served him his morning tea sometimes, when the head housekeeper was short-staffed, and she always kept her eyes on the teapot instead of his face. She told herself this was simply good sense. A girl like her had no business drawing the attention of anyone, least of all a king. But sense has a way of failing when fate has other plans. The castle held an old tradition, older than King Ronan's family line, called the Dawn Hunt. Once each season, on the morning of the solstice, the king's wolf was allowed to run through the royal gardens before the sun fully rose, while the rest of the household stayed inside, curtains drawn, doors locked, as a mark of respect for the ruling wolf's brief freedom. It was said to be the 1 hour when the king let himself be fully what he was, without armor, without crown, without the weight of ruling pressing on his shoulders. The solstice fell on a stormy morning that autumn, the kind where rain came down sideways and thunder rattled the windows in their frames. Alara had been sent, against her wishes, to deliver fresh linens to the east wing before the household went into its usual solstice lockdown. She hurried across the covered walkway that ran along the edge of the garden, her arms full of folded sheets, rain soaking through her cloak. She never saw the loose stone until her foot caught it. She stumbled, and the linens went flying, and in trying to catch herself, her hand grabbed for the low garden wall instead of the walkway railing. The little pouch sewn into her collar, already damp from the storm, tore loose and fell into a puddle at her feet. She did not notice right away. She was too busy gathering the scattered sheets, too worried about being caught outside during the sacred hour, too focused on getting back indoors before anyone saw. By the time she noticed the pouch was gone, it was already too late. The rain had washed the crushed herbs into the mud, and with them went 10 years of careful hiding. She felt it before she understood it, a strange lightness at her collarbone, as though a weight she had carried so long she'd forgotten it was there, had suddenly lifted. She reached up and felt her scarf, damp and slipping loose from the storm, and her stomach turned cold. She had to get inside. Now. But the garden gate was closer than the servant's door, and in her panic, she took the wrong path, cutting through the hedges instead of around them, straight toward the open lawn where the mist was still curling low over the wet grass. That was where she saw him. The king's wolf stood in the center of the garden, easily the size of a small horse, with fur so dark it looked like poured ink, and eyes that still held that same storm-gray color, even in this form. He had been running, she realized, mid-stride through the mist, alone as tradition demanded. And now he had stopped completely, every muscle in his massive body gone still, his nose lifted to the wind. Ilara froze too, sheets forgotten at her feet, rain running down her face. The wolf's ears pinned back, not in warning, but in something closer to disbelief. He took one slow step toward her, then another, his great head lowering, nostrils flaring as he drew in a breath that seemed to shake his whole body. A sound rose from his chest that Ilara had never heard from any wolf before. Not a growl, not a howl of anger, but something raw and broken and searching, like a question asked after years of silence. Her scarf had slipped entirely now, the crescent mark bare against her wet skin, catching the first gray light of the breaking dawn. The wolf let out a cry that echoed off the castle walls, a sound so full of longing that even the storm seemed to pause around it. Then, slowly, deliberately, the great creature lowered itself to the ground before her, head bowed, in a gesture Ilara did not need Marin's old stories to understand. It was not a hunter greeting prey, it was recognition. It was a decade of searching finally coming to an end. She should have run. Every instinct Marin had drilled into her screamed to run, to hide, to disappear into the mist before anyone else came looking. But her feet would not move, and when she looked into the wolf's storm-gray eyes, she felt something she had not let herself feel in 10 years. She felt seen. The sound of hurried footsteps and raised voices broke the moment. Guards, alerted by the wolf's cry, came rushing from the covered walkway, torches sputtering in the rain. Ilara's panic returned in a rush, and this time her body listened. She turned and ran, leaving the linens behind, ducking through the hedges and back toward the servants' quarters, her heart slamming against her ribs. She did not sleep that night. She sat in her small room with the door bolted, knees pulled to her chest, waiting for the guards to come for her. They did not come. Instead, in the gray hour before the household woke, there was a single, quiet knock at her door. She knew, somehow, before she opened it, that it would be him. King Ronan stood in the corridor, dressed now, his dark hair still damp, his eyes carrying none of the cold distance the whole castle had grown used to. He looked, for the first time since she had ever seen him, unguarded, almost afraid. "You've been hiding your scent from me for years," he said quietly. It was not an accusation. It sounded instead like a man finally understanding a puzzle that had haunted him his whole life. Ilara's hands trembled at her sides. "Please," she whispered, "don't tell the court. I never meant harm to anyone. I only wanted to survive." Survive from what? His voice was gentle, but there was an edge of pain in it. "Ilara, do you know what my wolf has been searching for, every single day since I became king? A scent he caught only once, as a boy, the day Silverwood burned. I was young. I did not understand what I felt then. I only knew that something had been taken from me before I ever had the chance to find it." She stared at him, unable to speak. "I did not order that attack," Ronan continued, stepping closer, careful, as though she might vanish if he moved too quickly. "My father did not order it either, whatever the old rumors say. It was Lord Cassian Vane, a rival to my family's throne, who used our banners to hide his crime and turn the surviving packs against us. I have spent years quietly hunting proof of this, because I could never prove it, and because everyone believed the Thorn name was guilty. I could not clear a crime I did not understand the shape of, until now." Ilara's eyes filled with tears. She had not let herself cry in years. "Silverwood was my home," she said softly. "I was 7. Maren got me out. She hid me, taught me how to disappear. She told me if the wrong wolf ever found this mark, her hand rose to her collarbone, I would not live to see the next sunrise. I am not the wrong wolf, Ronan said, and for the first time, something like a smile touched his face, small and unpracticed, as though he had forgotten how. I have been waiting for you longer than I understood. I was waiting. My wolf recognized you the moment your scent reached him, even through the rain. He bowed to you, Elara. My wolf has never bowed to anyone. She let out a shaking breath, half a laugh, half a sob. I don't know how to be anything but a servant, she admitted. I don't know how to be a queen. Then we will learn together, he said. But only if you wish it. I will not force a crown on you, or a mate bond, or anything else. You have spent your whole life having choices taken from you. I would rather wait another 10 years than take one more thing from you without your word. It was that, more than anything, that undid her. Not the promise of a crown, not even the ache of finally being found after so long alone, but the simple fact that he asked. By mid-morning, the storm had passed, and pale sunlight broke over the castle gardens. Word had already begun to spread among the staff in the court, whispered from doorway to doorway, of what the guards had seen at dawn. When Elara walked into the great hall beside the king, still in her plain gray dress, her scarf gone, the crescent mark visible for anyone to see, the whole room fell silent. King Ronan did not ask them to accept her. He did not need to. He simply took her hand in front of the assembled court and told them the truth, all of it, about Silverwood, about Lord Vane's betrayal, about a decade spent searching for a scent he had never stopped hoping to find again. He named her, there and then, as his queen, and vowed before every noble in the hall that justice would finally be brought to those who had destroyed her home. Elara stood beside him, no longer trying to be invisible, no longer hiding behind scarves and crushed herbs and years of careful silence. For the first time since she was 7 years old, she let herself be seen completely, and found that the world did not end because of it. It began again. The next solstice, when dawn broke pale gold over the garden, 2 wolves ran through the mist together, side by side, neither one hiding, neither one alone.